On today's episode, we're going to be doing some NaNoWriMo prep and talking about how do you decide what to write. So stay tuned. Welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie writers on their journey toward publication. I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
I'm Christina Catane, and I write Christian fantasy.
Welcome, everyone. Today, we'd love to have you all here in our chat, and I can see that Piper is already here. Good morning, Piper. Thanks for joining us today. But we love all of our chatters here live. If you are listening to this later or watching this later, and you can ever take an opportunity on a Friday to join us at 10 a.m. Eastern, we would love to have you. We have a great group of people that show up every Friday live to discuss our topic and just to cheer each other on. But if you are also just listening to us as a podcast, we appreciate you as well. If you would like and subscribe, do whatever you can, share with a friend, just to help grow this community. We would really appreciate that as well. Catherine Carroll is also here. Good morning, Catherine. It's good to see you. All right, so we like to start off every episode with our what's up. It's a time to check in with one another and see where we are in our writing and usually just our personal lives. So Tina, I'm going to start with you. What's up, hon?
I wrote this week.
Yay!
Yeah.
That's so sad that we're excited that we actually one of us did that. So,
And
great news.
I've done manuscript time blocks every day this week.
Mhm.
So I haven't hit
Explain
my.
what that is. What is it? What do you mean by manuscript time blocks?
It's a 25-minute sprint with a 5-minute break.
Oh, I've
Is
never heard it
one.
called that.
Oh,
So it's like a
sorry.
Pomodoro.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, and
gotcha.
I'm doing a challenge this month with the Write Better Faster Academy, where you have to. It's called 30 for 30, and you get one manuscript script time block every day
Mhm.
for 30 days in a row, and then you get your name in a drawing for a free conference.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
and
Great.
they've been doing live writing sprint, like write the 30 minutes live every day on YouTube.
Mhm.
So that's been
Oh,
kind of
very cool.
fun. And so like I have a couple 800-word sprints in one of those 30 minutes. I've done a lot of intellecting. I've kind of decided what I'm going to do for Nano.
Mhm.
And
Fun.
my friend Dora came over yesterday and cut my hair, and she like disguised my bald spot from where I bumped my head. So I don't have to wear one of those stupid headbands anymore.
That's awesome.
So because things are going good.
Very cool. Catherine says that she's doing the 30-day challenge too. So that's exciting. And we also have Jason here. Hi, Jason. We've missed you. I was just
Oh,
thinking
long
about you the
time.
other day, actually. Jason came out for our live writing that we had back in April, right? It was April that we did that.
Was that
Man,
April? That seems like yesterday.
golly. I know it does seem like
Time
yesterday.
flies too fast.
Yeah.
The
I,
older you
I
get, the faster it flies. That's what I've learned.
I agree. I just realized I didn't bring down my what's up. Darn it. My what's up is that I found a pen clearance at Meyer.
Oh, you
I
didn't
got
call me immediately?
I
What?
I guess I should have. It was like all different kind of pens, including some friction, which are those erasable ones. My girls love them, but they were like the different gel color ones, and they had some some of the brand that I like that write in purple. I always sign my books in purple. I started off that way, like I had a purple pen, and like I've just stuck with it because it's one of my favorite colors anyway. And so, yeah, they had these like great purple pens I love, a 2-pack for like 69 cents, and so I bought all of them.
Wow. I use these Micron
Oh, those ones are good too.
05. Where is my camera?
Yeah, I use those in my Bible journaling.
That's
Those are
what I
great.
use to sign my books.
Mm. They don't bleed through.
No.
So I don't use specifically the same pen every single time when I sign. There are a few different kinds that I like the Bic ones that don't bleed through. I really like those. I feel so sad that I didn't bring those down. I was so excited to
No,
show
I
you
could
guys,
show
but
them mine.
Yeah, if you
Yes.
yours weren't on sale, but if you had
Look at
ooh,
my carousel, and it
that's awesome.
spins, and I could have, like, all the things, like
So mine's different. So
Mhm.
mine is like I have some here that you can't see. I have okay, so I share my office right now. So I got some homeschool stuff here, but I got a bunch back here. But then I've got like some of my purse, I got some of my nightstand. Like they're all over the place because they travel with me and stuff. So but
I
yeah.
do
Oh,
have
Liz.
some over there that are, like, paint markers. They're actually, like, tipped
Mm,
like a paintbrush, and I have this, big Bible that has pages that you can color on in it,
yes.
and I
I
do
do
that.
Bible journaling too. Yeah. That's awesome. Liz Henderson is here. Hi, Liz. Catherine says, "Ooh, pens," and
Yeah,
Liz supports the purple pens. She says, "Yay, purple pen!" Yeah, I love purple pens. So yeah, that was it. Other than that, life is just going pretty much the same. Homeschooling is going really well. The basement remodel is still not finished, but we're so much closer. I think I get to start painting this weekend. The
nice.
drywall part, man, if you've ever done your own remodel, drywall is horrible. If you know what you're doing, it's probably like "Do, do, do," done, but like when you're just a homeowner trying to do it, man, it's
I have a
horrible.
son that did it for a living for a while, so
Which
I
son?
James.
Oh, okay.
So I called we had a ceiling leak in our dining room,
Mhm.
and we had to replace half of the ceiling,
Mhm.
and he came and did the drywall for us, which was really nice.
I can't believe I didn't know this information because we were looking all over for somebody that we knew that we could just pay to do it that was like because we'd already done a ton of the work, so we didn't want someone to come in and say, "Oh, this isn't good enough," and wanna rip it out. Because I had friends that did that, they had done a bunch of the framing and they hung the drywall, and they just wanted to hire someone, and then people came in and said, "Oh, this isn't good enough," and they wanted to they ended up having to rip it all out and pay them to redo it, and I'm like, "But
That
you know
sounds like
what?"
a scam.
That's what I thought too, but, anyway. Um,
I don't know if he would have had time to help you now. He has like a full-time job and stuff.
yeah, that's a bummer. Not a bummer that he has a full-time job. That's good, but
Yeah.
but we're done with it. We still have one more drywall section in our upstairs in our kitchen. That's gonna be next is the kitchen when this gets done. But yeah. So oh, and Maria's here too. Hi,
Oh,
Maria.
Maria,
Yeah,
yay.
yay. So all right. So today's topic, I'm super excited about getting into this because um, so as if you've been following us for a while, you know that I've been struggling to get back into writing since everything kind of went south with my mom, and it's just been a struggle that a lot of us has been dealing with, the just getting back into the habit of daily writing. And I have all kinds of things that just stop me. Like I've got computer issues and there's just different things happening. But there's something that happens once a year that always motivates me. It is very exciting and can be a motivating thing for me at least, and it's called NaNoWriMo. And so if you don't know what NaNoWriMo is, it stands first of all, you're probably very new to writing because I think we talk about it all the time, but it's called National Novel Writing Month. And once a year in November, it is a worldwide event that you strive to write 50,000 words, which comes out to 1,667 words in a day, which really is like 2 to 3 sprints, maybe an hour of writing. It really is it definitely could
Depending
be
on how
doable,
fast you write, yeah.
depending on how fast you write. But even if it was 2 hours a day, for 1 month, we can all find 2 hours a day, right? Anywho, and you pr you write every single day, and if you win Nano, then you can get discounts on things or whatever. There's a website for it. We have all, participated in the past. This is a Camp Nano, which is an April book. Searching for Anna is Avoiding Esther was a NaNoWriMo book. And my 4th book, which is coming out soon, was a NaNoWriMo book. Like, I started it November 1st, and I came so close to finishing it. I got more than 50,000 words that year. I was so close to finishing it that I just kept my Nano stride, and I finished it halfway December. The whole book was done halfway through December. So, I'm a huge fan of this. So I get super excited when it comes to some people get stressed out by it. Some people don't wanna participate. That's totally fine. But this is something that really gets me excited to be able to tell my family, "Okay, it's November. So here's the deal. This is what mom's doing, right?
Mhm.
So, but in order
And
to get there, go ahead.
I was gonna say Nano was where we met. Like, I knew
That's
you
true.
from before because we go to the same denomination, the same district. Like, so
Yep.
church stuff, I knew who you were.
Mhm.
But, Rhonda and Jamie actually invited me to a Camp NaNoWriMo, what did
Because
I
you knew
say?
her through homeschooling, right?
Like, she was in my homeschool co-op. She was one of the leaders, and she asked me if I would go to this write-in for NaNoWriMo with her
Mhm.
because I told her I was gonna participate, and, that's where like, you were there, and Rhonda was there, and our friend Cindy, not
Mhm.
Cindy, Vicky.
Vicky.
Sorry, Vicky.
Mm.
Was there, and like we ended up starting this writing group, which then eventually morphed into this podcast. So
Right. Exactly.
it's all thanks to Nano.
It is. It is very much thanks to Nano. And, yeah, and so where was I going with oh, and so in order for me personally, and I think most people to be able to really succeed at Nano, you need to be ready for that day. Like, when I first discovered Nano that same year that you're talking about, I discovered that about Nano, like, on October 28th or 29th. It was the 29th, and I was like, "What?" And I was in the middle of writing a calling for Phoebe, and I was like, "I wanna do this." And so I had already had this idea of the book for a sister, and so I stopped writing calling for Phoebe, and I started working on avoiding Esther. But I had to start prepping for it, right? So that first one was kind of a disaster for me. Like, I think I won it, but it was, like, kind of a disaster. So subsequent ones have been much better because I prepare. Thus, coming to this next series that we're entering into for the month of October, which is Preptober for NaNoWriMo. And so we've done other episodes in the past. So you can go back and you can just go to our YouTube page and type in, you can search for Preptober on our page, or go to YouTube and type in Christian Indie Writers Preptober, and it'll bring you all the episodes up. But in the past, we talked about specifically outlining for different genres. And this month we want to try to be more in general ways that you should prepare. So today we're going to talk about deciding what to write. So it's a pretty big topic, right, Tina? Because we're all kind of different, right?
Yeah, and I feel like that's something we say with every topic.
That's true. We kinda do say
Um,
that a lot.
and I think that was like the magic of our group, especially when it was the four of us here. Because we were all so different and we had these different perspectives that we could bring to the table on any
Mhm.
topic that we talked about. But this is another one where we come about things, we go at them differently.
I agree, absolutely.
Yeah.
Whoops, my pen. My Maria says, "I love Nano. I always try to include it in my writing year." Same. My fantasy novel started out as a Nano project in 2018. So see, there's a lot of us, I think, that have had projects that have become published novels, right? And
That's awesome.
Piper came and she said, "I wrote this week." That's great, Piper. She says, "I'm doing the 30 for 30 thing, just like Tina and Catherine." And she says, and I also love purple pens. To be honest, I love most colors. I don't love black or regular blue pens. I like black. I don't like blue pens. Please do not like, unless it's like a turquoise or like that. But regular like Bic blue. Yeah, no, that's not my thing. Piper
I
says,
like plum. Like,
"Oh,
you could call
pretty.
this purple,
You could. I
but
would call that."
it's plum.
Piper says her first book started as a bank project too. I think she means nano. I think it came up bank. But it did take me several goes to complete. That's fine too. Liz Henderson says, "My first Nano, I had zero prep because I'd only heard of Nano less than a day before. Needless to say, the story was garbage, but at least I got to 50,000 words." Hey, you got writing in, right?
That's the goal. I remember
Uh-huh.
Jamie saying that she didn't know what to write, so she was watching TV and just dictating everything they said, like,
Right.
into her thing so she could get to 50,000 words.
Because I don't know if you still have to do this, but back when it first started, you had to actually put your words into the website, so it would count them for
Oh,
you.
I don't I
I
joined
don't
after
know.
that.
Yeah. So, Catherine says, "I've never done Nano because I can't deal with the pressure." Ooh, I would
That's
That's fine, but I kinda wanna pressure you to try it. Pressure you, that's probably not the right word. Encourage
Mm.
you to give it a try and see what can happen. So, um, and then Piper says, "Nano, stupid swipe typing." And Liz Henderson says, "Yay, someone else using swipe typing." I use swipe typing all the time. I can't even do regular texting. I have to do swipe. So,
Yeah, I have a
all right.
friend who was trying every time she tries to swipe good, it
Mhm.
changes it to God.
Mhm.
But I use God a lot more in my texting, and it always changes God to good.
Yeah, that's funny. That's hilarious. One
That
day,
is
Jamie and
funny.
I, because we had the same issue, and it was our phones would autocorrect really ridiculous things. And so I said, one day we should just start like stop correcting it and just whatever swipe says, we should just send it to each other. And we laughed about that. Well, then the next day I did it. And she said, "Oh, it's on." So all day, whatever would swipe, we would just send it to each other. We wouldn't correct it. And this is where Burger's Butt came from. If you have ever heard us say this, I tried swiping I don't care somehow came out as Burger's Butt. One word that does not exist. It's not a real word, but that's what Swipe decided to correct it to. And so whenever we say burger's butt, it means I don't care. So
The
anyway,
last time that,
little side
my
note.
husband had like an actual, corporate church, like we do a
Mhm,
house church now, so
mhm.
I I I have to keep myself from saying it's not a real church. Anyway, there was this, little old church lady that we were getting ready to have a church potluck, and I was
Mhm,
saying something to her, and I meant to write tater tots, and it
mhm.
changed the O in tater tots to an I,
Oh,
and
no.
I and I didn't catch it.
Oh, my word.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
that was funny because
yeah.
little church lady was like, "What?"
I have a story. My very good friend is our pastor's wife. We've been friends for decades. And she texted me something once that autocorrected and she didn't catch it. And it was not a good word, but it still fit in the sentence, which was but it changed the meaning of the sentence entirely. And so I started responding as if she meant to send that to me, right? Without telling her she made a mistake. I just started responding to that. And she's like so confused. And it wasn't like I'm sending laughing faces. And she's like, "I don't understand what's happening." And I said, "You need to read the text." And she so anyway. Okay, we gotta get back into the topic.
Yeah,
We
sorry, rabbit trail
always.
or
This is what
squirrel.
happens. This is exactly what happens before we go live. Just so you guys know, you are our
Yeah.
friends. You're on the inside. This is exactly what happens.
Jamie's
Okay.
not here to crack the whip. That's the
Right.
problem.
I would say Rhonda's not here to crack the whip, but she didn't crack the whip. She always made it worse, right?
Yeah.
She always let us down. Like she
She
enjoyed
would
the rabbit
laugh.
trail. Yeah.
She would get me going because I like to make her laugh.
Oh my gosh, she's so funny. I got to see her this week, but that's a whole nother topic. We'll get to that
That's
later.
another rabbit trail.
That's another rabbit trail. Okay. So, how do you decide what to write? I mean, the obvious things are do you already have a story burning inside of you, right? If you have something burning inside of you that you can't get out of your head, then that's pretty clear. That's probably what you need to write. Or this is not the more popular choice because they want you to start with a new project, but do you have a working project that you want to finish and you're more than 50,000 words away from the finish? Like, they want like, the rules, quote, unquote, are you should start a new project, but there's no nano police that are gonna come to you and say,
Right.
You can't do this." So, what is best for your career?
We
If it
are
is
all
to work on this working project you've already started, then work in progress, then do that, right? So, those are
right.
2 options.
I mean, we're authors. Do they really expect us to follow the rules?
Right. I I kinda am a rule follower, though, but
Oh,
that's
no.
just I know. You knew that about me. I'm a rule maker and a rule follower in general, like, unless the rule is stupid, I guess, so alright.
Well,
So,
most
but
of them
what if
are. So that's in my
you are
opinion.
you're an anarchist. Like in our our group writing group, you are for sure the anarchist. I'm very much the one like, okay, writing is gonna start that like we're gonna go on writing retreat and this is gonna be the schedule. And you're like, where's the coffee? I'll get to it in a second. Like we're all starting to write and you're like, where's the coffee pot?
Look, my daughter and I, who just went on a trip together we drove 12 hours to Minnesota and then 12 hours back, have
Mhm.
decided from now on we're only going on trips with other high adaptability people.
Adaptability, yeah.
She's number one adaptability. Like, as long as we get there eventually, she doesn't care, like,
Yeah.
what we do, like, what time we get up. Not and I didn't care either, like, we sat in the Jack in the Box parking lot after we ate our lunch and read our books for an hour because we didn't feel like driving right then.
I love that.
So,
Alright,
like,
so
that's me. I'm like, "That's too rigid. That's not that's too unchangeable. I need to be able to adapt."
alright.
Anyway.
Alright, so what happens, though, if you don't already have a story burning inside of you, or you have a work in or don't have a work in progress that you want to finish? So what do you do next, Tina? What's the next
Well, we
thing you
gotta
could do?
brainstorm some ideas,
Right.
and there's a lot of different ways to do that. If you're a high ideation, you probably just do it. Um, but if you're not, then you have to go through some processes, and I think one of the first things is, do you know what genre you wanna write in?
Sorry, I didn't mean to leave you, I had to deal with a dog situation.
Oh,
Sorry.
that's okay. All I said was one of the first things that you could do is decide if you already know what genre you want to write
Mhm.
in, or is there a decision to be made
Right, for me, it's
about that?
automatic, like, I don't ever have to think about genre. The only thing I have to think about sometimes is, do I wanna write historical romance or do I want to write a contemporary romance? Because those are the areas that I write. I am pretty much Christian romance, like, I am very much niche, and I'm happy with that, that's what I want to do, so
Hmm.
but did you
And
explain how it's been different for you recently?
no, but I'm about to.
Okay.
I have been playing around with what I want to do next. And
Mhm.
every time the podcast start, I say that I write Christian fantasy because that's what my books that I've published are. But
Mhm.
I write all over the place.
Mhm.
And so I have some ideas that are in different genres. I think one of them's probably going to fall under cozy mystery, and the
Mhm.
other one is like a detective, a darker like detective story.
Mhm.
Which I don't know if that would be thriller or mystery. I have to research like the
Right.
nuances of those genres and figure that out. But um so I had, and then I had another like science fiction fantasy kind of thing also in my head. And
Mhm.
so I had to decide which one of those things that I was going to do for Nano, and so I just decided whichever one was taking up the most space in my head when I wasn't deliberately trying to work on writing.
Mhm.
Because I tend to be a daydreamer,
Right.
and like I will sit in my husband watches reruns. Now I just said that I'm high adaptability. Okay, can't stand reruns. They drive me crazy. He has watched the same shows all his life and over again, and he has the lines memorized.
Mhm.
He says the lines before they do. Like
And he enjoys it every single time.
that's his nothing box. That's his relaxation at the end of the
Mhm.
day. So I turn on my laptop and I turn on BritBox and I put a show on and I put my headphones on, and sometimes I watch the show and sometimes I'm in my head in a complete fantasy.
Mhm. Making up another story, right?
Right. And so
Right.
which I decided that whichever one of those was couldn't it was taking up my real estate in my brain was the one I would work on.
Mm.
So I
That's a really good
decided
way
to
of putting
go
it.
with the dark detective kinda thing.
Yeah. That's a great idea. I really like how you put that, that, like, whatever's taking up the biggest part of your brain when you're not trying to actively write. Because when you're trying to actively write, hopefully, you're thinking of the story that you're working in, right? But
Yeah.
I love the way that you write crime mystery type of things when we've sprinted and when we've done different things. I think we should do a whole episode, probably after Nano, but a whole episode on should you be writing in more than one genre and like explore that because I think that you're not alone in that. But I do think that like there's advice out there on both sides of that we should like kind of
Mhm.
explore. So that's
And
a
I tend to lean towards the advice that comes from the strengths coaches where you
mhm.
lean into your strengths. Like some people's
Yeah.
strengths are such that they need to stay in one genre. Some
Yeah.
people would go absolutely crazy if
Mhm.
they had to write the same thing all the time.
Right, and
And
I think some of the advice that comes out is more about the marketing of it, so I
yeah,
think that, like, even if someone's saying you shouldn't do that, I think that, "Okay, but I've done it, so now what do we do?" Right?
right.
I think that, like, there's ways of doing it,
And
so
there's ways to do it and still have a career that's
yes,
marketable,
agreed. So,
which is
that's a
it's
whole
a whole
nother
nother
topic.
episode.
Yeah, it's a whole
And
nother episode. Why are
you
we
know,
going down that
the
road?
good thing about rabbit trails If you
Yes.
know anything about rabbits, their trails always circle around and end up back into a hole that goes right back into their little den.
I love that.
So we'll come back eventually.
All right. All right, so let's talk about characters. If you don't know what to write about, but maybe there's a certain character that has been sticking with you, or a certain location, or a certain time period. I've been reading an awful lot of Regency because that's really what's out there in Christian romance right now.
Hmm.
I don't think I want to write Regency. I think it's just, there's just a lot, and I'm not interested enough to spend that much time researching it because Regency romance readers, the majority of them are they're sticklers. Like you have to have things right or but I do love Jane Austen. So I don't know. So maybe like you've been reading something, a lot of something. You're like, I think I might want to wet my feet in that time period. Or, um, so what do I do if I think I have like a time period or a location or a character that I'm thinking about? What do I do next?
I would write. I would just like set a timer, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, do a sprint and just free write. Just put it out there. If it's a character that you're thinking about, just and sometimes during sprints I don't write a story. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
during sprints I like talk to myself. Well,
Mm,
what if I wrote a cozy mystery? And
mhm,
what if this character was this and that, and or what if she did this, or what if I wrote this dark thriller, and what if that character had this characteristic? What would that look like? Maybe we could do this, and I would write out my what if questions. And I
mhm,
have like this week I wrote more of that than I wrote actual story
mhm,
because I was working on who is this character that I'm going to write and where does he live and um, what kind of person is he and what is his wife like. So those are the things that I've been exploring through sprints, just sitting down and writing it.
so what that's what I wanna clarify. So you said that, like, you're asking yourself these questions. Are you doing that through writing or just in your head?
I'm writing it out
Right.
like
I
I
agree with that.
almost as if I'm writing in a journal. And then
Yes.
if you looked at like I titled my Google Doc sprint number 1. I put like October 2nd, sprint number 1, sprint
Mhm,
number 2, sprint number 3, and you'll see like the what if questions and the answers to those what if questions, and then suddenly I just start writing a scene
right.
because I
So
got to the place where I could see the scene, and that's
mhm,
one of the advices that I've gotten with my intellection is as soon as I can see it, I need to write it. Otherwise, I'll
right,
just keep stuck in the loop of thinking about it.
right.
So that's what I did. And I have 1,800 words that I put in a Scrivener document for the story, but I wrote a lot more words than that this week.
Right. And because see, what I guess we also should very much clarify that this is all pre-outlined. This is all just like
Hmm.
what like we would do before we even started to try to piece the story together. And you mentioned what if questions, which I have mentioned in the past too. Like I use them for every story, and it's something we get from K.M. Wyland. And like her suggestion is that you just sit down with a pen and paper, or you could do it on your computer, but I usually do pen and paper and like what if this and what if that, and nothing is too ridiculous. If it pops in your head, write it down. What if aliens showed up in Jane Austen's time? What if vampires or whatever, the zombie one, like whoever came up with that, but it sold books and it made a movie, right? So
Right.
the most ridiculous things. Now most of the ridiculous stuff I don't use, but there have been times that ridiculous stuff has popped up in my what ifs and I'm like, okay, that's a little bit too ridiculous, but what if? And then that takes me somewhere else. So,
Yeah.
it's a great exercise to do when you're in your pre-outlining stage of your work.
And if you
So,
have trouble with those kind of ideas, like find a high ideation person like me
mhm,
and say, to ask me some what if questions.
mhm,
Like you just give me a basic painting of what is your time period you're thinking about, or what is
mhm,
your setting, or what is their character, and
right?
somebody with high ideation who can just pop off like, well, what if this and what if that?
Mhm.
What if Santa Claus got the elves pregnant? Like,
Ew.
isn't that what I put that on your like when we were messing with your board that one time?
Maybe.
I think Santa
Maybe.
Claus got somebody pregnant. I'm pretty sure that was one of the
I did not use that suggestion.
yeah.
Maria says, "My nano project is totally different. I'm doing a contemporary mystery set in a holiday vacation setting based on something that happened to a friend. This year has been very much focused on my historical fiction series, which has been good, but I think I need to take a break and write something else. Plus, this project will be fun to write." Yeah, I think that you can have fun with Nano. I think you could like write outside of your genre and just get some writing and just enjoy the month, right? Maybe fall back in love with writing again. And Liz says, "This is making me want to do Nano this year, but I'm close to burnout with zero writing in my schedule."
Mm.
Well, I feel you, Liz, but maybe you do like what I was just suggesting. Maybe you just find something really fun to write. To just help yourself get back into writing and to love writing again.
And really, there's no pressure. Like, if you
Yeah,
don't win, what's gonna happen to you? Are, like, the gremlins gonna come down and, like, zap your computer and make it no,
right.
nothing's gonna
And
happen.
Piper has a great suggestion. She says, "I feel that I am just coming off a 9-month break because of life issues. What if writing is part of your self-care?" What
Mhm.
if you did that? What if you just spent the whole month writing, 1,600 words a day about whatever? Like find some sort of fun topic or
Use it
fun
as a
story.
journal. Like,
Yeah.
journaling can be so healing when you're going through stuff, and you could just, like, write down your feelings and what you're going through and all of
Mhm.
that. It doesn't have to be a story.
Right. I plan on trying to do a Widows of the West book for this Nano, but, like, if it comes down to it, if I'm just not feeling it, I could just do a Marnie book. I could do
Mhm.
and just have fun with it. Just spend time writing with those 2 characters interacting. Like, maybe I don't know. That might just
And
be what
maybe
I
you could
need.
go back and forth. Like, who says you have to write the same thing every day?
That's true.
You
That's
could work
true.
on 2 different things if, like,
You're
you
not
get
supposed. You're not supposed to, but the police are not gonna show up at your
right.
house,
I
right?
mean, what are they gonna do to you?
All right, so we've done some free writing, we've done some sprinting, and we've done some what if questions. So we're still pre-outline, but we think we've got it kind of narrowed down. So what would you do next?
Well, from your what if questions,
Mhm.
um, need to get the idea to the outline, and you're probably gonna have to do some research.
Right. No matter and then that will help you decide, like, do I really wanna do this, right?
Right.
Like, I might, like, do some free writing and some what if questions, and I might think, "Yeah, I wanna write a Christian regency," and then I go do the research, and I realize there's a lot. Like, it would be like, I would have to really study the people that write most of them that write regency, that's all they write, because they spend all of their time, like, really researching, and they spend a long time learning it,
And they're
the time
immersed in
period.
it.
And then they're immersed in it, right? And I
Yeah.
don't know that I wanna be immersed. I do know that I wanna write Christian romance, but I have, like, different story ideas already popping around in my head. So, yes, research would be for sure the next thing, I think, when you're still trying to decide. Check out the setting, the time period. If you're writing contemporary, like, what is the culture of whatever you're writing? Like, and when
Mhm.
I say culture, it doesn't just mean, like, well, I'm not writing in a different culture, it's in my culture. Yeah, but, like, is your culture, you know, Detroit, Michigan, or is your culture, Jacksonville, Florida? Because they're
Mhm.
completely different cultures,
I
not just
have
the
a great
setting, but the
example of
culture.
that
Okay.
because the book that I'm gonna do for Nano came off of the sprint we did last week, and one
Mhm.
of the words was marsh.
Okay.
And so in my story, there's a marsh next to
Mhm.
the ocean, next to a trailer park. So, like, when I was writing it during the sprint, I was thinking of, like, the southern, like, South Carolina,
Right.
like, beaches out that way.
Mhm.
But I know nothing about that culture.
Right.
I have not spent any time in that culture. So I said, well, I need to find a marsh, something that if I don't want to take that whole scene out of the book, which I kind of don't want to take it out, I need to
Right.
find a scene, a setting that could have marshes and a trailer park in a
Mhm.
culture that I'm more familiar with. And so I'm a Pacific Northwest girl. So I went
Mhm.
looking in the Pacific Northwest and I found a place where I could put a fictional little town
Mhm.
with a marsh and a beach on the Pacific Ocean and a trailer park. So
And
there we go.
And I love that because you know the location, the setting, you're familiar with that, but you're also familiar with the people, how the people talk, how they act, because you know that you've lived it. Where I would same thing, like when I wrote here like my setting was Michigan, even though it was historical, I knew enough of like how like the culture of Michigan, where people moved to Michigan from, and what is the mindset and where people were working, and like the how the automobile industry affected like all areas. And so yeah, so I knew that, so I did research, don't get me wrong, but I didn't have to research the culture. So but
Yeah,
you totally can write in areas that you've never been from, or
you
that you
could.
know.
I just didn't. I'm lazy and I didn't want to do that much work.
Right.
So I decided to find something familiar where I could still keep that scene.
Right. And while you're still building your characters too, I think that another thing that's important when you're thinking about, is this story going to work? Is this a story I want to write? Is you need to think about the psychological traits of your characters. So for
Yeah.
me, if you've never read the book Birth Order, it's not a very long book. It's a great book to read. It helps me understand my own children. It helped me understand, like, where I fit into that as a baby in the family, but the firstborn female, and why I have the certain traits that I do. Also, Clifton Strengths plays in when I'm planning out my characters. Most people won't read it and say, "Oh, she read the birth order book. That's why these her characters are acting this way." But it gives a reality to my characters that, like, I know that Sarah is the baby of the family, so there's certain things that she is not gonna do, and there's certain things that she's gonna react in certain ways, right? So this is
Hmm.
so, we talked about personality assessments, like Clifton Strengths, or
And
like that,
Myers-Briggs and
the Myers-Briggs.
Briggs, yeah.
So, and if you're writing something like Tina, then you also kinda need to get in the mind of, like, crazy people, right?
Bad guys, yeah.
Bad guys, like, what would make them bad? Like,
And one
and
of the some of the research I need to do is I need to figure out what genre this book is in and figure out what their tropes are and what their the reader's expectations are. Even though I
right,
read those kind of books, and watch those kind of shows almost exclusively, and I
mhm,
feel like I know all that, I still need to research it and make sure I'm right
right,
before I
agreed,
write an entire book.
right. Piper says research could include knowing the tropes or main things to include in whatever genre you're picking.
There
I'm
you go.
trying to figure if I want to do cozy paranormal, but I need to learn the must have beats. I absolutely 100% agree with that. I was just listening to an episode of the Novel Marketing podcast, and they were talking about how tropes, people are like, oh, I'm going to write something original. I'm not going to follow tropes. It's the same thing as saying, like, well, I'm not going to follow a recipe for pizza. I'm going to be original. And it comes out as meatloaf, and you've not made pizza,
Mhm.
right? You say to somebody, I'm going to make you a pizza. Like, you still have to follow the basic recipe for pizza.
Mhm. Or you say,
Otherwise,
"I'm
you've
gonna make
not,
spaghetti," and you make mashed potatoes instead and put the sauce
right.
on it. That's not spaghetti.
It's not spaghetti, and you're going to disappoint readers. And it's going to be
Yeah.
hard. It's going to be really hard to sell mashed potatoes with spaghetti sauce on top of it to the majority of
Yeah,
people
I'm
out
not
there,
gonna be
right?
happy. I'm gonna send it
Right.
back and tell 'em to give me some noodles.
Right, exactly. So I think that's really wise, some wise advice there, Piper, to also know your tropes.
Yeah.
So all right. And we have one last bit of advice, because it's my favorite. Is once you've gone through that, because I do believe that you need to do some research before you finally set your mind to, this is the story that I'm going to do. And
Mhm.
once you've done that, once you've gone through and figured out, like, this is the story, I know that this is what I want to write. The next step is go buy some supplies. Get yourself a I love doing the science fair like trifold, and I put post-it notes on it. That way it's portable for me. I also do it on my computer so that I have, but I just like that physical thing to hold in me. Post-it notes are great, even if you did it on a wall and you put post-it notes up, or you can move them around on your paper. But this is like a silly way to end, but this is definitely what I do next, is I go buy some supplies to get ready for
You
Nano,
know
and
what
we're
I
gonna start
have?
using them next week. But
I have this thing.
mhm.
This is a dry erase board that, like, is like wallpaper that I stuck to the wall,
Uh-huh.
and I can erase all this, and I can, like, use my
Yeah.
because look at these. These
Dry
are
erase markers in all
these are
colors.
my wet erase markers. because they don't come off with them except for water. So you like if you're writing, your wrist isn't going to rub them off.
Right.
Um,
Do you want me
and
to
I
tell you? Oh, go
yeah.
ahead, go ahead.
Oh,
I was
I
gonna
said I could use washi tape to
mhm,
to delineate my scenes.
mhm. It's a great idea. I'm gonna tell you something else that's gonna just make you wanna go out and buy more stuff. So, chalk markers, uh,
I have
don't work
some.
I was gonna say, they don't work great on chalkboards because, they actually can, like, stain them. Like, I learned that the hard way. However, any non-porous surface, they're great, and they're a wet erase. So, all the range of colors that you can get in the chalk markers and how you can blend them.
Ooh, I have a whole box
Yeah,
over there, like 24 of them,
we
because I
yep.
had this whole idea that I was going to paint my desk with chalk paint and be able to
Mm.
write all over my desk, but
So
it
they
never came to fruition.
so they are terrible with chalk paint, no matter what companies say. It does chalk paint's different than a real chalkboard, but I also have a real chalkboard that I purchased and I did some art on it and it won't come off. So just a little heads up, I'm gonna have to repaint it with chalk paint and then use regular chalk. So yeah. So again, another rabbit hole today. What is the matter with us? But so the buy supplies is just kind of a joke. But next week we're going to be talking about character building, and I do think that post-it notes and a place for you, whether it is something portable or it's a wall in somewhere in your house, in your closet, somewhere where you can like kind of start brainstorming and if you're just a typer and that works for you, that's great too. But we're going to start talking about characters next week and how to prepare your characters before we start outlining. So,
Fine,
yeah,
fine, fine.
I'm excited. I hope this makes everyone else excited too because this is going to be and we haven't talked about for sure what we're doing um as a podcast during that month. I know for sure we'll have our regular podcast, but we last year was the first year that we didn't do our Halloween. Um, or
Right
did you
in.
2 do it? Did you guys do it without me? I feel like you guys did it without me last
I
year.
don't remember.
So, anyway, not sure, but if you guys will
A
show up
midnight thing.
yeah, if you guys will show up on Halloween midnight, which officially becomes, well, we showed up at 11, had a little time together, and then we started writing at midnight. If this is something you guys want, head over to our Facebook group. Um, maybe Tina, we should put a post in there, like a poll and
Yeah.
see if we can get some so we'll do that after the podcast. We'll
See
put a
how
poll up.
yeah, because Jen likes to go to bed early most nights,
I do.
and if not
I'm not
enough
a late
anyway,
night.
if nobody's gonna show up, then we'll just let her go to bed.
I mean, honestly, it's worth it to show up just to see how, goofy I get. I don't do well late at night. I'm not a late night person. So, that there's pure entertainment there in general,
Mhm.
but yeah,
And
so
I have, this thing that when people get goofy, I tend to, like, empathize with them, and then I get goofy too.
lots of
Mhm.
giggling happens. Okay, but so go over to the Facebook group and look for that, but for now, it is time for us to do our feeding of the backs. So before the podcast started, we both Tina and I wrote to the same prompt, and I'm gonna have her share what the prompt is and then share what she wrote.
Oh boy, I didn't write it down. Okay,
Oh,
it's
I can
5
tell.
words. No, I got it.
Mhm. Okay.
Terrify, competence, hill, mutual, and pile. So I know that I got one word, and I had a synonym of the second of another word.
Mm. We'll let it fly. The police aren't
Okay.
gonna come and
But
yeah.
this was me playing around with this character that I'm developing for this dark thriller mystery, whatever it is.
Okay.
It's the same guy from last week. Rob tried his best not to terrify Chris. She sat in the middle of the bench seat with her arm wrapped around his, her head on his shoulder. He shifted the 84 F 150 into third gear as he turned off the highway onto an old logging road that led up into the hills. Oh, I did use hill. I thought I said mountain. Okay. It was rough going, the old truck's suspension groaning with each bump. I'm taking you to Pops, he told her. I want you to stay with him until this case is resolved. She hadn't replied, just lay her head on his shoulder and held on tighter. He
Mm,
couldn't even begin to imagine what she'd been through the last few days, and there hadn't been time to ask about it. Once they got to Pop's place, there would be time to talk. At some point, Chris fell asleep, her head bouncing against his shoulder, her arm letting loose of his as it fell limply along his side. His heart ached to pull her closer, envelop her until she was completely hidden and safe from the evil in the world. He quietly spoke verses of safety over her as he drove, imploring the Lord to make them be true in her life. Then they were pulling into the clearing at the end of the trail. That's what it had turned into by the end, a trail. Just two barely discernible tracks, sometimes almost completely overgrown with bushes and trees spreading their roots in the mostly undisturbed ground. Pop stood at the head of the trail to his cabin, Raphael, his donkey, munching
Mhm.
contentedly on the long grasses growing in the long abandoned clearing. Old logs still lay here and there along its edges, forgotten and left behind by loggers decades earlier. Trouble? Pop said when Rob approached him. Chris tucked herself under Pop's arm and lay her head on his chest. That's when the tears came. She'd been stoic up until then. Rob knew how hard it was for her to be vulnerable enough to let that type of emotion out. He felt no jealousy that Pop was that person for her. Three, two, one.
I love it. Okay, so this is your guy character, right?
Mm-hmm.
And his name is, Rob, correct?
Detective Rob Reed.
Ooh, I like it. I like it a lot. I love that he is praying verses over her. I think that it was a very subtle way to show that you're writing from a Christian perspective and that this guy is gonna, like, he's got a Christian perspective. I think this is gonna be super interesting, Tina, to see how you do a gritty crime drama, but the guy is a Christian. I think it's very doable. I think if anyone can, it's gonna be you, but I love that. So, I
Thanks.
yeah, I thought she was his daughter, the way that she was reacting and how she reacted with Pop, but then till your very last line where you said that he wasn't jealous. So, yeah,
Right,
interesting.
and when this comes in the story, everybody will already know that she's his wife.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah,
what she
right, right,
went
right.
through the last few days, they'll already all know all that, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I did have to resist the urge to explain it
I know, right? I do that things like that too when
because
we're
I'm like, well, in
yeah,
the course of the story, those are things that everyone's already gonna know.
right. I can tell you right now that I'm already gonna like Pop. Like, first of all, that his name is Pop instead of dad or father or whatever. I like that,
And
and
I
I
haven't
love the
decided if he's actually anybody's dad.
oh, even better. Like,
Yeah.
maybe he's a retired cop that,
Yeah,
like,
like
this
a
guy knew or
hermit
something.
that lives up in the woods that yeah, and they just call him that. That's what
That's
I
cool
think
too.
is
Yeah,
gonna
that's
be.
cool too. Yeah, I love that. I can already tell you that I'm gonna love this character, the fact that he lives, like, down this, like, trail and you just kinda, like, there by himself, but that he's not at all fazed by the fact that this guy just shows up, and yeah, I think and he's got a donkey,
Yeah,
like, this is so great. Yeah, well done, I really enjoyed that.
thanks.
Yeah, Piper says, "Aw." Yeah, awesome.
She also wants to know if you did all-nighters in college. I'm not really sure what she means by that.
Oh, because I don't like to stay up late. Okay,
Oh,
Piper, that was 30 years ago. I did a lot of things in my 20s that I cannot do now.
well, let's not get into what we could
I could rollerblade then. I used
I
to,
I could jog.
run. Yeah, right, I used to jog. Yeah, there's a lot of things I used to do that I do not do.
I used to bend over and pick things up off the floor.
But yes, I used to pull all-nighters. I for sure did because, college is way different now. Everything is submitted online, at least at where my daughter is taking colleges through, and my son graduated from that college, and even when he was on campus, everything's submitted online by midnight. So it's like you're forced to go to
Mhm.
bed because it's past the due date, so or due time, so Piper also says, "I like the driveway that turns into a path too." Yeah, I agree. I think it gives you a sense of, like, who this guy is and how he's living, and yeah. Okay, my turn. Same
Okay.
words. I used, I did not use hill. That's the only one I didn't use. "It seems we have a mutual acquaintance," the steely-eyed rancher said. His lip quirked. "And a mutual goal, I assume." "Well, Evans, I don't think you know me well enough to make any assumptions about my goals," Cade said. He turned back to his horse, hoping the man would give up. He did not. "Come on, McNeil. Word has it you've been spending a mite amount of time at the Widow McGuire's place." Cade's hackles went up. "Who you been talking to?" The man gave Cade a smile, the hole where his front tooth should have been appearing as black as his snake-like eyes. "Everyone's talking about it." "Everyone. There were only a few people at the ranch, and Cade was pretty certain neither the widow or her foreman spent much time discussing their private affairs in town. Can't say as I blame you, Evans continued, but I'll warn you, she's a feisty one, and her piece of property isn't as fine as we all thought. If I were you, I don't think I'd let my own ranch waste away under the hands of that man you got working for you at your place. There it was. The gossip wasn't coming from the widow's place, but from his. I'm not sniffing around anyone's skirts. Uh, I forgot to put that in the paragraph before. Sorry. He's responding to that term. I'm not sniffing around anyone's skirts, and I don't take kindly to anyone questioning the competence of my foreman. It wasn't the first time Shane's reputation had been questioned, but Cade didn't take kindly to it in the past, and he wasn't about to allow this man to disparage his best friend now. Evans held up both hands as if to ward off Cade's pending anger. Now hold on there, McNeil. Ain't no reason to get upset. I was just looking out for you. Most rumors I hear around here are just a pile of. Evans' unsavory statement was cut short when the door of the store slammed open and Colleen McGuire stormed out, a terrified look on her face. 3, 2, 1.
Oh boy.
Mhm.
Is this gonna be your main bad guy?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
No.
I like him. I
Oh.
mean, I like him in the me, and when I say that, I mean I hate him. It's
Right.
like, like I like the
Mhm.
character
Right.
as a bad guy.
Right. And just so you know, that last sentence I threw in there just to get the word terrify in there. She might not even be there. I don't know. I just threw
Like,
that in
yeah,
there.
that was a shock that you said terrified look on her face. I was expecting like anger or
Yeah.
like she
I
had
don't know.
heard what they were saying or something.
Yeah. She's probably not even there, but I want to get the word in.
Right. I understand.
Yeah.
Like I kind of did the same thing because I'm not sure
Mhm.
why telling his wife he's taking her to Pops would have terrified her.
Mm, right. Yeah,
So,
interesting.
but
Yeah.
that's just how I started it, and then the rest of it came. So that's what
Mhm.
happens when you're sprinting.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but I love those kind of scenes where there's like tension, and then somebody comes in, and then I don't know. I just like those kind of scenes.
I also need to have something I needed to have something to stop him from, like, saying a nasty word, a pile of, and then I stop
Yeah,
him. So just so I get the word pile in. I
yeah,
might not
because
leave
we all
that.
know
I
what
don't know.
that is.
Right?
Mhm.
Doo-doo.
Pile of manure.
Piler says, "Ew, the hole where his tooth should have been. Thanks." And then she says, "Not sniffing around anyone's skirts. Excellent real language, which gross. LOL." Yeah, agreed. My goal I with this scene, again, like talking about how like you can't like put too much in here because it should be like building up to like things that but Cade does not realize that when he, approaches the widow that he's not the only one that's trying to get her property, but he's maybe the only honorable one that is trying to. And so this is just different ways for him. Like this whole scene is going to be him kind of figuring that out, but it's gonna be a lot longer than this. This was just a 15-minute sprint, but
Right.
yeah.
But I
So
like it.
thank
I
you.
can't
I
wait to
appreciate
read
it.
this book.
I can't wait for you to read it either. That means I'm done with it.
Yeah, that would be nice, right?
Right? Exactly. Getting there. All right. So just like we start every episode with our what's up, we end it with our what's next. So Tina, what is next with you?
Well, I'm just gonna keep on using my little planner to look at before I go to bed at night to plan out my next day because I do so
Oh, that's
much
good.
better when I do that.
Mhm.
Like if I don't think about it the night before, I wake up and I'm like aimless for a couple hours and
Mhm.
then nothing gets done.
Mhm.
But if I look at it the night before and I know at 7 o'clock I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna make my breakfast and do my devotions, and 8 o'clock I'm gonna start writing. Like
Mhm.
I haven't reached. There was one day I reached a 1,800 word goal that I wanted for the day.
Right?
Um, but I did get. It's not that I didn't get a lot done. I still
Right.
like got a lot of thinking done and a lot of that kind of thing.
And
So
you're working on a new book now. You've put the other book aside because it was
yeah,
just
I
making you.
can't even think about that book. I just my brain won't let me. It's just like ugh.
Yep, totally fine.
So
So for me, I have some tech issues that I have to work out this week. My MacBook stopped working or stopped charging. And so, my good friend Justin has purchased me a charger he got for $3, which is amazing. But I haven't seen him yet. So I need to get that from him and see if it was my charger. If it's not my charger, then it's a bigger problem somewhere in the port. And I don't know that he has the ability to fix that or if I even have the money to worry about that. So if that comes back that like I don't have a fix for that, then I have to start figuring out how I'm going to do the interior of my book other than using my laptop. So that's number one priority on my list for this week. Also, I am going to look again at my outline for the Widows of the West one and see how far I am off from like being able to like kind of just finish that book up. And I would like to not this week, but before the end of this month, I would like to get Widows of the West 2 outlined. I have it outlined on paper on the computer with I think most of the holes filled. I think it's pretty much, but I need to get it on a trifold. So I will feel pretty good if by the end of the month I have those 3 things done. So yeah, that's what's next for me. So
Awesome.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We will be back next week when we're going to discuss characters and it'll be the second Friday of Preptober, and so please join us for that. But until then, may your deadlines, may your pen be prolific, may your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Bye now.
Bye.